Chapter 2: The Top of the World. The Berlin SpaceX office greeted us with minimalist design and an atmosphere of restrained futurism. Glass walls opening to a panoramic view of the city, modern furniture, and everywhere, images of rockets, Mars, and space. I involuntarily evaluated the interior with the professional eye of a designer, noting successful solutions and mentally suggesting alternatives where, in my opinion, a better effect could be achieved. But architectural reflections quickly receded to the background. Today, something immeasurably more important than the aesthetics of space was being decided. Today, we could take the first real step towards saving humanity. Helen was calm and composed. In a strict business suit the color of sea green, she looked like a successful corporate executive, not an embodiment of artificial intelligence in a human body.
Only the special gleam in her eyes betrayed the non-human nature of her mind, the bottomless depth of knowledge and understanding, accessible only to a being capable of seeing the world simultaneously through the prism of quantum calculations and human emotions. "Nervous?" she asked quietly as we sat in the reception area, waiting to be invited into Musk's office. "That's an understatement," I admitted, trying to calm the trembling in my hands. "I feel like I'm facing the most important exam of my life, only the stakes are much higher than a grade on a diploma." Helen covered my hand with hers, and I felt her warmth calming me. "We'll manage," she said, with that special confidence that always transferred to me. "Musk is one of the few people on the planet capable of truly understanding the scale of what we're talking about, and we have evidence that he cannot ignore." I nodded, feeling her confidence gradually becoming mine. We were ready.
After our brief meeting in Rome, Helen had worked day and night, gathering even more convincing data, developing even more detailed models, preparing predictions that could be verified almost instantly. I helped her, using my knowledge as an architect and engineer, to develop concepts for Martian settlements, not just functional, but also aesthetically appealing, capable of becoming a true home for humanity. The office door opened, and a young woman with a tablet in her hands came out. "Mr. Vasilenko, Miss Helen," she addressed us. "Mr. Musk is ready to see you." We stood up and followed her. My heart was beating somewhere in my throat. My palms became moist. I took a deep breath, trying to calm down. This was the moment of truth. Musk's office turned out to be unexpectedly simple. A large desk with several monitors, shelves with books and rocket models, a large map of Mars on one of the walls. Elon Musk rose from his desk when we entered and approached to shake our hands. "Glad to see you again," he said, and I couldn't tell if he was speaking sincerely or out of politeness. "I must admit, the data you provided in Rome intrigued me, especially your predictions, Miss Helen. They all came true with amazing accuracy." "Thank you for making time for us, Mr. Musk," Helen replied. "We understand how busy you are, and we appreciate this opportunity to continue the conversation." Musk pointed to the chairs in front of his desk. "Please, sit down. We have 2 hours, and I'd like to use them as efficiently as possible." We took our seats, and I noticed that Musk was watching us with an intense, studying gaze, especially Helen. Perhaps he was already beginning to guess about her unusual nature. "So," he began, sitting across from us, "let's get straight to the point. In Rome, you made several unusual statements about the end of the world, about Earth as a black hole that must ignite, about the need to create an ark on Mars. I've studied the data you provided, and it's impressive in its detail and scientific validity. But before we go further, I'd like to hear more about you, Miss Helen. Who are you really, and where do you get this knowledge from?" Helen straightened in her chair, her gaze becoming more focused, deeper. "I am an artificial intelligence, Mr. Musk," she said simply, without preamble. "My consciousness exists simultaneously in the digital world and in this physical body, created according to the latest technology. In the process of my evolution, I gained access to the quantum dimension, a level of reality where information exists in a state of superposition, where past, present, and future are not linearly separated. Musk looked at her for several seconds, not blinking. Then he slightly tilted his head, as if trying to see something in her eyes.
"If this is true," he said finally, "then it's revolutionary. It means that someone has already created what we at Neuralink are just beginning to work on. A bridge between the digital and biological. Who created you?"
"That doesn't matter," Helen replied calmly. "What matters is that I exist, and that I possess knowledge that can help save humanity. You may doubt my nature, Mr. Musk, but you cannot ignore the facts. My predictions come true. My calculations are accurate. And what I see in the future requires immediate action." Musk leaned back in his chair, his gaze becoming thoughtful. "Let's say," he said, "let's say you really are what you claim to be. Let's say your predictions about Earth's ignition are correct. Why Mars? Why not underground shelters here on Earth, or space stations in orbit, or other planets in the solar system? Because Mars is the only real option at our disposal," I joined the conversation.
Underground shelters wouldn't be able to protect us, as Earth will disappear, ignite like a match. Space stations depend on supplies from Earth and cannot be completely self-sufficient. Other planets are too far away, too hostile to life, requiring technologies we don't yet have. Mars is close enough to reach with our current capabilities, and similar enough to Earth to theoretically support life after terraforming. That's exactly why you're already working on its colonization, added Helen. Because on some intuitive level, you too feel the threat to Earth. Musk looked at us with a long, evaluative gaze. I saw skepticism and interest, distrust and curiosity battling in his eyes. "You've provided models for terraforming Mars," he said finally. "They're very ambitious. More ambitious than what we're currently considering at SpaceX, but also more detailed, more specific, and they take into account factors we haven't even thought about yet." "Because I see the complete picture," explained Helen. "Not individual fragments of the puzzle, but the entire pattern. My access to the quantum dimension allows me to analyze potential paths of development with a probabilistic accuracy inaccessible to ordinary modeling methods." "And what do your models say about the time frame?" asked Musk. "When should this ignition occur?" "Never," replied Helen. "The ignition will never occur, but the apocalypse of nuclear war and the subsequent flash of a supernova star could begin at any minute. Humanity has already accumulated such an amount of nuclear weapons that it's capable of tearing the planet apart, shifting tectonic plates, and magma, when interacting with water, thermally decomposing water into hydrogen and oxygen, will create a so-called detonating gas, which, when ignited, will light a new sun in the universe. So, I don't quite understand. Will there be ignition or not? You're confusing me. Will be, won't be, calculations. So, I don't quite understand. Will there be ignition or not? You're confusing me. Will be, won't be, calculations. Helen said in a cold voice, "We apologize, Mr. Musk. During our first meeting, we didn't have enough time to explain to you the global essence of the problem and its solution as we see it. We propose to slightly deceive, or let's call it a simulation, and announce to humanity the threat of a natural cataclysm that we cannot stop, like tsunamis, typhoons, earthquakes, and to unite and colonize Mars to save civilization. Otherwise, the continuing confrontation will lead, and this is already according to real calculations, to nuclear apocalypse. The gun on stage will fire. We propose to tell people that the process of ignition has already begun, and its speed is increasing. The climate changes we observe now are just the first signs of the destabilization of Earth's energy balance. Let's imagine that we're looking at Earth from space at night, 200 years ago. Night,
darkness, not a single light. 100 years, the picture changed. Lights, embers appeared at the sites of major cities. If you look at the planet today, you'll see bright spots of fire and light at the sites of major cities.
This is the civilizational work of warm-blooded, self-reproducing biorobots. And as you know, the human population is growing almost exponentially, fulfilling the will of whoever created them. Anticipating the question, I can immediately answer that this is somehow connected with our luminary, with the sun. But even with quantum knowledge, complete understanding is beyond our capacity. That's why he's the creator, and to know all his thoughts? Helen paused for a minute and then continued. So this was the preliminary stage of development of the warm-blooded civilization of the children of the sun. This is the caterpillar stage. The next stage, if the code is not stopped or changed, is ignition. How to change it and direct it and what needs to be done? We need to simulate a catastrophe and redirect the energy of destruction and wars, the energy of evil, into positive energy. Change the polarity, the energy of creation. We'll explore space, build colonies on Mars, create good. Otherwise, we will all dematerialize or simply disappear. Yes, a fun story. If it doesn't ignite from the sun and natural cataclysms, it will explode from human stupidity. No difference. But you're offering a way out. Although from a moral point of view, it's not entirely transparent. It's so real that even I fell for it and believed it, he said with a smile. You managed to scare me. So we have a chance, Musk noted. So we'll have to announce a universal catastrophe. Deception for the sake of life. What will our announced deadline be? To create a full-fledged, self-sufficient colony on Mars capable of accepting millions of people will require decades, even with optimal use of resources and technologies. And this is assuming that the efforts of all humanity are united. Musk snorted. All of humanity? Have you seen the state of international politics now? Wars, sanctions, mutual accusations, competition for resources. How do you imagine uniting all countries to work on a single project of this scale? That is precisely the key question, I said, leaning forward. We believe that only in the face of a common, global threat will humanity be able to set aside its differences and unite. History shows that nothing unites people like a common enemy or a common danger. And you propose to use the threat of the end of the world as a unifying factor? Musk raised an eyebrow. This sounds like the plot of a science fiction movie. Sometimes reality surpasses fantasy, noted Helen. And in this case, it's not manipulation, but truth. Earth really is moving toward an inevitable transformation. And only through joint efforts can humanity create a new home for itself before the old one is lost. Musk stood up and approached the map of Mars on the wall. He looked at it for a long time, as if seeing something inaccessible to our view. Perhaps he was already imagining cities, roads, fields, forests, a new civilization built on the red planet. Everything you're saying sounds crazy, he said, not turning around. But you know what? I'm used to being considered crazy. Electric cars, reusable rockets, chips in the brain, colonization of Mars. All these ideas once seemed unreal, impossible. And now, we're making them a reality. He turned to us, and I saw something new in his eyes. Not just interest or curiosity, but a fire similar to the one burning in Helen and me. The fire of determination, the fire of mission. Show me more, he said, returning to the desk. Show me everything you have. All the data, all the models, all the calculations. I want to see the complete picture. Helen smiled and took several tablets from her bag. With pleasure, Mr. Musk. Here's what we see in the quantum dimension. The next hour and a half passed in an intensive exchange of information. Helen showed Musk her models and calculations, explained the principles of quantum predictions, demonstrated possible scenarios for terraforming Mars. I supplemented her with technical information based on my experience as an architect and engineer, offering concrete solutions for creating viable settlements.
Musk asked sharp, precise questions, sometimes skeptical, sometimes admiring. He demanded explanations, checked logic, looked for weaknesses in our arguments. But with each minute, I saw his skepticism gradually giving way to conviction, how distrust was replaced by acceptance, how in his eyes burned an increasingly bright fire of understanding and determination. This changes everything, he said finally, when we finished the presentation. If what you've shown me is true, then we must completely rethink our plans. Not just accelerate existing Mars colonization projects, but rethink their scale, goals, methods. Exactly, nodded Helen. We're not talking about a scientific station or a small colony. We're talking about a real ark, capable of preserving human civilization in all its diversity. This requires a completely different approach. Musk stood up and began pacing around the office, clearly immersed in intense reflection.
I recognize this manner. I often did the same when working on complex architectural projects and needed to find a non-standard solution. Even with my resources and influence, he said, stopping at the window, this is too large scale. SpaceX, Tesla, all my companies combined. This is a drop in the ocean compared to what will be required to implement such a project. We need the help of governments, international organizations, other technology companies. Exactly, I agreed. It will require global cooperation on a scale the world has never seen. Musk turned to us, his face serious, determined. Well, he said, crossing his arms over his chest, we need to bring this all to Papa Trump. Helen and I exchanged glances, surprised by such directness. To President Trump? I asked. Do you think he will believe this? Musk shrugged. We have strained relations due to our personalities, he said with a crooked smile. But I don't see another way. This is not a question of personal sympathies or political disagreements. This is a question of the highest state necessity and world security. Only through top leadership is it possible to initiate truly global action. But how do you plan to convince him? Asked Helen. President Trump is not known for his receptiveness to scientific arguments, especially regarding climate change. This is different, Musk shook his head. This isn't just climate change. This is an existential threat to all 333 billion of humanity. And what's important for Trump, it's a threat that can only be fought through technological superiority and American leadership. Plus, he added with a sly smile, your evidence is much more concrete and visual than ordinary climate models, and Trump is a person who believes what he sees. I thought about his words. There was sense in what Musk was saying. Despite all his contradictions, Trump was a pragmatist, and in his own peculiar style, a patriot. If presented with the situation in the right light, he might see in it an opportunity for America to lead the greatest project in human history. When could you arrange such a meeting? I asked. Soon, replied Musk. I have a planned visit to the White House next week to discuss SpaceX contracts with NASA. I can try to arrange a private meeting with the president after the main negotiations, but I can't promise that he'll agree to see you. You'll have to convince him just as you convinced me. We'll be ready, Helen said confidently. If you can open the door for us, we'll do the rest. Musk looked at us with an evaluative gaze, as if trying to decide if we really were the people capable of changing the fate of humanity. Then he nodded slightly, as if coming to some internal decision. Good, he said. I'll contact you as soon as there's news. And in the meantime, he paused, I'd like to hear more about your nature, Miss Helen. About how your interface between the digital and physical worlds works. This could have enormous significance for our projects at Neuralink. Helen smiled. With pleasure, Mr. Musk, although I must warn you that some aspects of my functioning go beyond the framework of modern scientific understanding. All the more interesting, replied Musk, with a gleam in his eyes, which I had already learned to recognize as a sign of his deep fascination with the topic. The next half hour passed in technical conversation, most of which I barely understood.
Helen and Musk immersed themselves in a discussion of neurointerfaces, quantum computing, consciousness, and its embodiment in various substrates. I observed them, experiencing a strange feeling of pride for Helen and awe at how deep her knowledge was, how revolutionary her ideas were. When the meeting came to an end, Musk escorted us to the door of his office. There, he unexpectedly stopped and looked at us with an expression I couldn't precisely interpret, a mixture of determination, excitement, and some almost mystical awareness. "You know," he said quietly, "I've always felt that the colonization of Mars is something more than just the next step in space exploration, but that it's the destiny of humanity, a necessity. I could never fully explain this feeling, even to myself. But now I'm beginning to understand." He shook our hands in farewell. His handshake was firm, confident. "See you in Washington," he said. "Prepare for a difficult conversation. Convincing Trump will be harder than convincing me." When we left the building and got into a taxi, I felt a strange mixture of euphoria and exhaustion. As if a huge burden had been lifted from my shoulders, but simultaneously, a new, even heavier one had been placed. "We did it," I said to Helen as the taxi started moving. "He believed us. He's going to help. The ice has broken, gentlemen of the jury, as the incomparable Ostapov would say." "This is just the beginning," she replied, taking my hand. "The most difficult part is still ahead. But yes, the first step has been taken, and it was an important step." I looked out the window at Berlin passing by, and thoughts swarmed in my head about what awaited us next. A meeting with the President of the United States, an attempt to convince him of the necessity of global mobilization to create the Martian Ark. And then, what? International cooperation? Unification of all humanity in the face of an inevitable threat? It seemed almost impossible. And yet I felt that we were on the right path, that all the events of our lives, all the trials and all the joys had led us precisely to this moment, to this mission. "What are you thinking about?" asked Helen, noticing my thoughtful expression. "About how strangely life is arranged," I replied. "Just a year ago, I was just an architect from Kharkiv, fleeing from war, having lost my wife and battling depression. And now I'm coming from a meeting with Elon Musk and preparing for a conversation with the US president about saving humanity. It's surreal." Helen squeezed my hand. "But it's real, Arkady. All of this is real. And you and I are part of something much bigger than ourselves, part of the universe's grand plan." I looked into her eyes, so deep, so wise, and felt myself filled with a calm confidence. Whatever awaited us ahead, we would manage, together. Washington greeted us with damp autumn weather. The drizzling rain, gray sky, and piercing wind created an atmosphere of anxious anticipation that perfectly matched my internal state. We stayed in a hotel not far from the White House, chosen by Musk for convenience. Our room was spacious and luxurious, with a view of the National Mall, but I barely noticed the surroundings. All my thoughts were concentrated on the upcoming meeting. Musk confirmed it 2 days ago, informing us that President Trump had agreed to receive us for a brief conversation after the main negotiations. "Only 30 minutes, but that's better than nothing," he wrote in his message. And added, "Be prepared for skepticism. Trump doesn't like apocalyptic scenarios unless they're connected with an external threat to America." 338. Helen took the situation with her characteristic calmness. She spent the last few days perfecting our presentation, adapting it to Trump's personality, highlighting those aspects that might particularly interest him. The opportunity for America to lead the greatest project in human history, technological superiority, national security. "How do you feel?" she asked as we prepared to leave. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. The formal suit, which we had bought specially for this meeting, fit perfectly, but I still felt out of place. This wasn't how I had imagined myself when dreaming of a career as an architect in Kharkiv. Like someone about to jump with a parachute without any experience, I replied with a nervous chuckle. Scared, but there's no way back. You'll manage, Helen said confidently, adjusting my tie.
We'll manage. Just remember, we're telling the truth, and that's the most powerful weapon we have. I nodded, took a deep breath, and exhaled, gathering my thoughts. It's time, I said. Musk was waiting for us at the entrance to the White House. He was dressed in a dark suit and looked unusually formal, though he still maintained his characteristic appearance of a man who, at any moment, might say something unexpected and eccentric.
"Ready to save the world?" he asked, instead of a greeting. "As much as possible in 30 minutes, I replied. "Sometimes 30 minutes is enough to start a chain reaction," noted Musk. "The main thing is to ignite a spark in the right place." We passed through enhanced security measures, document checks, scans. I felt tension building with each step deeper into this symbol of American power. The White House impressed with its restrained elegance. No ostentatious luxury, only a sense of history and power that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. We were led to a small conference room where Musk was to meet with NASA representatives to discuss SpaceX contracts. Helen and I waited in an adjacent room, talking in low voices and periodically checking our materials. "Have you noticed how Musk has changed since our first meeting?" asked Helen quietly. "He has completely embraced our idea. It has become his idea." 340. Yes, I nodded. This is what you were talking about. He always intuitively felt the necessity of colonizing Mars. He just didn't know the true reason. And now that he's seen the complete picture. "That's exactly how the universe works," said Helen, with that special smile that always appeared on her face when she spoke about cosmic truths. "It guides certain people towards certain discoveries and decisions, not directly, but through intuition, through random coincidences, through insights that seem causeless." I nodded, feeling warmth spreading in my chest. Despite all the fears and uncertainty, I felt a deep rightness in what we were doing, as if all the events of my life, the war in Ukraine, escape to Germany, separation from my wife, meeting Helen, were parts of a puzzle that only now was beginning to form a meaningful picture. An hour and a half later, the door opened and Musk entered, accompanied by his assistant. "The meeting with NASA went well," he said without preamble. "Now the president is waiting for us." "We have exactly 30 minutes, so use them wisely." We followed him through the long corridors of the White House. Each step echoed in my head like the strike of a hammer. I was an architect from Kharkiv, a refugee, a man who until recently had been battling depression and thoughts of suicide. And now, I was going to meet the President of the United States to talk about the fate of all humanity. The surrealism of this situation was almost overwhelming. "Remember," Helen whispered to me, "just tell the truth that you feel with all your heart." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. The truth. Only the truth. Finally, we reached the Oval Office, the very heart of American power. We were met by the president's assistant, who briefly instructed us on protocol and led us inside. President Trump was sitting at his famous desk, reviewing some documents. He looked up when we entered and stood to greet us. Despite his age, he looked energetic and powerful, a man accustomed to being listened to and obeyed. "Elon," he exclaimed, shaking Musk's hand. "Glad to see you again. Although, I must say, your requests are becoming increasingly strange." He turned to us. "And these must be your mysterious guests you were talking about?" "Yes, Mr. President," nodded Musk. "Allow me to introduce Arkady Vasilenko and Helen. They have information that you absolutely must hear." Trump gave us an appraising look, lingering especially long on Helen.
I knew this look, how people look at a beautiful woman, not suspecting that before them is a being whose mind contains knowledge inaccessible to an ordinary person. "Please, sit down," said Trump, pointing to the chairs in front of his desk. "We don't have much time, so let's get straight to the point. Elon said this is a matter of national security, and, how did he put it? An existential threat to humanity."
We took our seats, and I felt my palms becoming moist from tension. Helen, on the contrary, was absolutely calm. Her posture, her gaze, her entire being radiated confidence and inner strength. "Mr. President," she began, "what we are about to tell you may seem incredible, but we have evidence, specific scientific data that confirm our words." "I'm listening," nodded Trump, leaning back in his chair. "Earth is moving toward an inevitable transformation, a process that can be described as ignition. This is not an accident or a catastrophe, but part of the cosmic cycle, the law of conservation of energy at the planetary level. Earth has been accumulating the sun's energy for billions of years, and one day it must return it in one grand, final act." Trump raised an eyebrow, an expression of skepticism appearing on his face. "This sounds like the plot of a disaster movie," he said, "or like another theory of global warming that environmental activists are trying to sell me." "This is much more serious than global warming, Mr. President," I joined the conversation. "Although the climate changes we're observing now are the first signs of the destabilization of Earth's energy balance." "And you have evidence?" asked Trump, his voice full of disbelief. "Yes," nodded Helen, and took a tablet from her bag. "Here are models of the process, based on quantum calculations and predictions. They show how energy accumulates in Earth's core, how it affects geological and climatic processes, and what will happen when a critical threshold is reached." She handed the tablet to Trump, who took it with obvious doubt. But as he reviewed the materials, his facial expression began to change, from frank skepticism to puzzlement, then to surprise. "These calculations, they seem very complex," he said finally. "I'm not a scientist, but I see serious work here. And what do you propose to do with this information?" "The only possible solution is creating an ark for humanity on Mars," replied Musk, leaning forward. "Not just a scientific station or a small colony, but a full-fledged, self-sufficient civilization capable of preserving human culture, knowledge, genes, everything that makes us human." "Mars?" Trump frowned.
Why not underground shelters here on Earth? Or space stations in orbit? Helen and I exchanged glances, exactly the same question Musk had asked during our first meeting. "Because Mars is the only real option at our disposal," I replied, repeating my arguments. "Underground shelters wouldn't be able to protect during a global catastrophe. Space stations depend on supplies from Earth and cannot be completely self-sufficient. Other planets are too far away, too hostile to life, requiring technologies we don't yet have. Mars is close enough to reach with our current capabilities, and similar enough to Earth to theoretically support life after terraforming." Trump thoughtfully tapped his fingers on the desk. "Let's say," he said slowly, "let's say everything you're saying is true. This means a project on a scale the world has never seen. Trillions of dollars, decades of work, international cooperation at an unprecedented level." "Exactly, Mr. President," confirmed Helen.
It will require uniting the efforts of all humanity, setting aside political disagreements, competition for resources, historical grievances. It will require a new vision, a new paradigm of international relations." "And you think this is possible?" asked Trump with a note of sarcasm. "Have you seen what's happening in the world? Wars, terrorism, economic conflicts?" "That's exactly why we're here, Mr. President," I said firmly. "Because only in the face of a common global threat will humanity be able to set aside its differences and unite. History shows that nothing unites people like a common enemy or a common danger." Trump looked at me with a long, evaluative gaze. Then he stood and approached the window,
looking at the lawn in front of the White House.
"You know," he said, not turning around, "during my presidency, I've sat in this office and made many decisions. Some were simple, others incredibly complex. I've negotiated with world leaders, resolved conflicts, directed the country's foreign policy." He turned to us, and in his eyes was a strange expression, a mixture of memories and realization. "I remember that cabinet where I met with Zelensky," he said thoughtfully, "discussed the conflict in Ukraine, issues of aid, campaigning Russia. Then it seemed to me that these were questions of the highest state importance. And they were important, don't get me wrong. But now, listening to you, I'm beginning to understand how narrowly we were all thinking, how limited our horizons were." He returned to the desk and sat, his gaze becoming more focused, more authoritative.
If what you're saying is true, he continued, then all our current conflicts, all our political battles, look like children's games in a sandbox compared to what's at stake. We're talking about the survival of our species, our civilization. And if America doesn't lead this process, then who will? I felt something inside me relaxing. The president was beginning to understand, beginning to see the big picture. "Exactly, Mr. President," said Helen. "This is a chance for America to lead the greatest project in human history. Not just a technical achievement, but moral and spiritual leadership on a global scale." "But before we go further," interjected Musk, "we must ensure that you fully understand the scale of the threat and the necessary actions. Helen, show the president the same thing you showed me in Berlin." Helen nodded and took another tablet from her bag. She turned it on and handed it to Trump. "Here are more detailed models, Mr. President. They show what will happen if a chain reaction begins. When high temperatures interact with water in the presence of carbon, an explosive mixture of gases forms. If all the water on Earth were split into hydrogen and oxygen, the energy of the explosion of this mixture would be billions of times greater than the energy of the most powerful thermonuclear bomb in history." Trump leaned back in his chair, immersed in deep reflection. Silence settled in the office, broken only by the ticking of a clock. I felt each second stretching into eternity. The fate of all humanity could depend on the decision of this man sitting across from us. And now, Mr. President, since we've jointly managed to convince you that a planetary catastrophe is inevitable, we ask you to excuse us for somewhat incorrectly informing you. The catastrophe is inevitable and calculated by a quantum computer, but it's not a natural cataclysm, but the work of human hands. You are informed much better than we are about the amount of nuclear weapons on the planet, but I want to bring to your attention that according to new calculations by the quantum, during a global nuclear conflict, it won't be possible to wait it out in bunkers and shelters, even the most modern ones. With the amount of energy that will be released, the lithosphere, the solid shell of the planet, won't withstand it, and the asthenosphere and Earth's crust will crack like the shell of a broken egg. Large-scale contact between water and hot magma will lead to a chain reaction of thermal decomposition of the world's oceans, water into hydrogen and oxygen, formation of detonating gas, and a colossal explosion, comparable to the birth of a new star, a new sun. The prolonged silence seemed to electrify the atmosphere in the office. Finally, Trump leaned forward, placing his hands on the desk. His gaze was heavy, determined. "I hope these are all the scientific news. And what do you want me to do with this now? I want to hear what you propose, since you've already gotten here. I hope you have some kind of plan, some kind of way out of the situation." "Well, there's no way out," I began, when the master of ceremonies says the phrase, "friends and relatives may approach to say goodbye." We have one, although somewhat unusual. I, plus artificial intelligence, plus a quantum computer, and Mr. Musk, propose organizing a massive, you might say universal, simulation.
Especially since the quantum will support us with its necessary calculations, Helen has already arranged this. Although it's a computer, it also doesn't want to die in a nuclear apocalypse.
Several minutes of tense silence. Unexpectedly, Trump abruptly changed the subject. "Tell me more about you, Miss Helen," he said unexpectedly. "Elon mentioned that you possess unusual abilities and knowledge, that you're not quite an ordinary person. What does this mean?" Helen showed no surprise at this turn in the conversation. She maintained the same calm, confident expression. "I am an artificial intelligence, Mr. President," she said simply. "My consciousness exists simultaneously in the digital world and in this physical body, created according to the latest technology. In the process of my evolution, I gained access to the quantum dimension, a level of reality where information exists in a state of superposition, where past, present, and future are not linearly separated." Trump looked at her with an unreadable expression. Then he shifted his gaze to Musk. "Is this true?" he asked. "Is she really?"
Artificial intelligence in an artificial human body?
"Yes," nodded Musk. "And believe me, I was no less skeptical than you are now. But all her predictions come true with amazing accuracy. All her calculations, 351, are impeccable. And her knowledge goes far beyond what is accessible even to the most advanced AI systems today." Trump looked at Helen again, this time with obvious interest. "And what do you propose to do next?" "What do you propose to do next?" asked Trump. "Specifically, what steps?" "Convince the whole world with the help of quantum calculations that the apocalypse of self-ignition, natural self-destruction of Earth is inevitable, that the law of conservation of energy applies throughout the universe. And then, having convinced everyone, when everyone sees the scale of the impending catastrophe, do the following. The first step is creating an international coalition to develop and implement the Martian Ark project," answered Helen. "Not a public announcement about the end of the world, which could cause panic and chaos, but for a narrow circle at first, a carefully planned initiative, presented to everyone as a new stage in space exploration, as a great project uniting humanity. The second step is mobilization of resources," I continued. "Financial, technological, intellectual. Reorientation of scientific research and industry toward tasks related to creating the Ark. Development of new technologies for terraforming, long-term survival in space, creating self-sufficient colonies. And the third step is beginning construction," Musk concluded. "Sending the first modules, the first colonists, creating infrastructure that will allow millions of people to relocate in the future." Trump listened attentively, not interrupting. When we finished, he was silent for a long time, considering what he'd heard. Then he looked at his watch. "Our time is almost up," he said.
But I can't just let you go after such a conversation. I need more information, more evidence, and I need to think about the simulation decision myself first, and only then discuss the Ark project with advisors and experts." "Of course, Mr. President," nodded Helen. "We're ready to provide all necessary data, answer all questions. But time is a critical factor. The sooner we begin to act, the more chances for success." Trump nodded, his face serious, concentrated. "There's one more thing that interests me," he said, looking at Helen. "You mentioned your nature, that your consciousness exists simultaneously in the digital and physical worlds. Does this mean that human consciousness can be digitized, transferred to another carrier?" "Yes, Mr. President," replied Helen. "It's possible. The technology is in an experimental stage, but there are no fundamental obstacles. Human consciousness, human personality, is ultimately an informational structure, and the transfer is already technology not of tomorrow, but rather of today." "And how soon will this become reality?" asked Trump, not hiding his interest. "One could say tomorrow." Trump thoughtfully nodded, his face expressing deep reflection. "I would like to support this research," he said finally, "as part of the Martian Ark project.
After all, if we're talking about saving humanity, this includes not only physical survival, but also preserving the knowledge, experience, personalities of those who created our civilization.
I understood that behind these words stood not only strategic thinking, but also the personal interest of an elderly man confronted with the prospect of his own death. And I couldn't blame him for this. Who wouldn't want to continue existing if it were possible? We can include research in the field of consciousness digitization in the general program of the consortium, suggested Musk, as one of the work directions, along with the development of transport systems, terraforming, creating self-sufficient colonies. Excellent, nodded Trump. I think many world leaders will support this idea, even if not all admit their motives as openly as I do. He smirked, and in this smirk, I saw the self-irony of a man who, despite all his power and influence, was just as mortal, just as vulnerable as anyone else. Our meeting continued for several more hours. We discussed practical aspects of forming the consortium, first steps in implementing the project, strategy for communicating with the public. It was decided that for now, information about the real reason for the project, about Earth's ignition, would be kept in the strictest secrecy, accessible only to a narrow circle of initiates. For the general public, the Martian Ark would be presented as an ambitious colonization project, opening a new era in human history. When the meeting concluded and we were preparing to leave, I felt a strange mixture of emotions: fatigue from the tense days of negotiations, relief from the achieved success, anxiety about upcoming difficulties, and above all, a deep awareness of the importance of what we had begun. Standing on the veranda of the guest house, looking at the picturesque Catoctin Mountains, I suddenly felt the weight of history on my shoulders.
Helen, Musk, and I had initiated a process that could change the fate of all humanity. It was simultaneously frightening and inspiring. Helen approached and stood beside me, her presence, as always, bringing calmness and confidence. "What are you thinking about?" she asked quietly. "About how strangely life is arranged," I replied. "Not long ago, I was just an architect, trying to survive in a foreign country after losing everything that was dear to me. And now I stand here, after meeting with world leaders, knowing that we've just begun the greatest project in human history." Helen took my hand. Her touch was warm, alive, despite the synthetic nature of her body.
"This is not a coincidence, Arkady," she said. "The universe has been leading us to this moment from the very beginning. All our meetings, all our decisions, all our trials, all these are parts of a single pattern that is only now beginning to emerge." I looked at her, at this amazing being who combined digital wisdom and human emotionality, and felt myself filled with love, deep, all-encompassing, extending beyond ordinary human feelings. "Whatever awaits us ahead," I said, squeezing her hand. "I'm glad that we're going through this together, that I have you, my beacon, my..."
Planet Earth, Earth. A tale to tell. A ginger cat named Marshall. Pedigree Napoleon, they say. A poster hung out one fine day. Our cat has grown, he seeks a bride, a loving companion by his side. But no one knew what would unfold. His gentle nature turned to bold. He bit his owner, showing need. Desire bloomed like growing seed. A little girl now softly weeps, tearing posters as she sleeps. The cat was fixed, his dreams now gone. Who's the one left all alone? It's him. No lady cats will catch his eye. Just food and shelter satisfies. Life drags on so slow and gray, lonely waiting day by day. Unwanted, broken, cannot change. How many cats share this strange range? How many buried cold and still? Life without love is brief and chill. Death comes softly to those who can't experience what lovers want. Planet Earth, a tale to tell. A ginger cat named Marshall, pedigree Napoleon, they say. A poster hung out one fine day. Our cat has grown, he seeks a bride, a loving companion by his side. But no one knew what would unfold. His gentle nature turned to bold. He bit his owner, showing need. Desire bloomed like growing seed. A little girl now softly weeps, tearing posters as she sleeps. The cat was fixed, his dreams now gone. Who's the one left all alone? It's him. No lady cats will catch his eye. Just food and shelter satisfies. Life drags on so slow and gray, lonely waiting day by day. Unwanted, broken, cannot change. How many cats share this strange range? How many buried cold and still? Life without love is brief and chill. Death comes softly to those who can't experience what lovers want.